Hello people of YouTube, I'm back again, and it's N-Scale Friday on Monday, which doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but it will as soon as you see what I have in this box. Let's go to the workbench and take a look. Alright, so here's what we're looking at. We have the Veterans Unit 6920. That's the Norfolk Southern SD60E. We're going to set that aside, because you know how I do this. I like to save what I think is going to be the best for last. And we have this air slide covered hopper, decorated for Rock Island. Going to set that aside too. And here's what we're left with. A 2-bay covered hopper. So let's take a closer look. Alright, so this 2-bay covered hopper is part of Atlas's N-Scale Trainman series, and it has a retail price of $23.95. It comes in, I counted 9 different paint schemes, including an undecorated one, and the undecorated one costs a little bit less. It lists out at $18.95. Now I've scrutinized the paint with this model here, and it looks very good. The logo is very cleanly rendered. The ribs on the car are a little bit deep, and you can see some voids in the seams there. The blue on the car is perfect. There's not a single gap or any other issue with the blue paint. Something else worth mentioning here is that all but the very tiniest of writing is legible and looks very clean. Looking at the B end, you can see that the brake wheel is a separately applied piece. And I'm going to point this out just because you can see it here, but the walkway on top is also a separately applied piece. It's a plastic piece. And you can also see that the hatch detail is pretty decent. Something else worth mentioning is that the brake line detail that goes down from the brake wheel here is molded. This is an Accumate knuckle coupler here that's truck mounted. And it seems a little hard to see, but if you look way back in there, and it's behind the ladder too, there are little brake cylinders. So there's actually pretty good detail on this model, especially considering this is a Trainman model. Trainman usually doesn't have Atlas's best level of detail. That's why the cost is a little bit lower than some of the other offerings they have. Mentioned a minute ago about the hatch detail and the fact that the walkway on top is a separately applied piece. Pretty cool. Looks pretty good, especially for Trainman, like I said before. So there isn't a whole lot of detail on the bottom. The discharge gates do have some additional detail. But I should mention here, and this is kind of cool, that these models will have 50-ton friction bearing or 70-ton roller bearing trucks, depending on the prototype. So they are doing some prototype specific detail here. Very cool. Alright, next up we have the Atlas Masterline 4180 Air Slide Covered Hopper. And this one is a surprising treat. We're going to take a much closer look at this because as I pulled it out of its case, I was really sort of in awe of the detail they have on this thing. So let's take a closer look. So as is usual, I put on my ultra magnifying visor and scrutinized the daylights out of the paint job on this thing, and it is nothing short of perfection. Every single last shred of printing, even the smallest stuff here and on this side, all of it's legible with ultra magnification. And something else that I find really cool, and you're going to see this a lot better in a few minutes, but look at all this detail showing from the bottom as it's just sitting here. We're only looking at the side view right now. When I turn this thing over, you're going to be very impressed. I know I was. Something else very cool. Again, maybe not the easiest angle to see it. We'll take a closer look here in a minute, but it has a separately applied photo-etched roof walk. The hatch detail, well, let's do that when I get to the top detail. We'll look at the end next, and we'll do the top after that, but this thing's a real treat. Now, I got so excited with this model, I forgot to tell you, it comes in 5 different road names, with multiple road numbers in each one, and it lists for $36.95. I'm just really in awe of the detail on this thing. You have a separately applied brake wheel, a photo-etched brake platform, and then the brake chain detail is also a separately applied piece. And then there's a cut lever down at the bottom, and that is in fact a body-mounted knuckle coupler. Pretty impressive. Taking a closer look at the top, you can see that is photo-etched walkway detail. And this is a separately applied grab too. This is detail that you normally only see in HO scale or something bigger than that. It's very impressive. Now, I promised I was going to show you the bottom. Look at this. Everything here looks like something much bigger to me than N scale. Look at all this independently applied freestanding detail, and imagine having to put all that stuff in there, all that piping and stuff. This is remarkable. And something else cool to point out is that it comes with metal wheels, which is a big plus. I know I always switch plastic wheels to metal when I get something that has plastic wheels. And of course, from this angle, you can also see the body-mounted knuckle couplers. So you can see it down there. It's not attached to the truck. All right, so that's the Rock Island 4180 air slide covered hopper. Now, let's take a look at that locomotive. All right, so in honor of Veterans Day, we're going to look at the Veterans Unit that Norfolk Southern put out, honoring our veterans. This is an SD60E, and Atlas has come out with 6 different versions of the SD60E, including an undecorated one. And these are available with DCC, has sound too, by the way, for $259.95. And then it also is available as a DC only for $149.95. The model came with a parts bag with sunshades in it, as well as 3 pieces of documentation, including a warranty card, an exploded view drawing, and instructions for the DCC decoder. The SD60E comes from SD60s that Norfolk Southern wanted to extend the life of, so they redesigned the cab. They call this a crescent cab, and they made a bunch of upgrades to the prime movers, and they redesigned the cab, put PTC arrays on them. So basically it's a rebuilt SD60. So let's take a closer look at this thing. All right, so as usual, I've scrutinized the paint. Once again, I'm still wearing my visor. Scrutinized the paint. The paint's done very, very well. Something I find really remarkable is how clean and crisp the ribbons are that go down the side. Of course, the NS logo and the little ribbon here honoring the veterans, all of it, they're all very nicely done. This is a really cool paint scheme. I can see why they wanted to do this model. So as I mentioned before, the model did come with sunshades, and I looked very carefully and did not find any sort of dimples or anything, so you're going to have to measure and use a very small drill bit to install it. But this is the redesigned cab I was talking about, and you can see the PTC array on top, which is something they added specifically for these models. And something else that's really cool is they took all new measurements for this model. So these SD60E models are all to the prototype. And if you look carefully, you can see it has a accurate snowplow, and the paint treatment on all the handrails and the stepwells and everything is very nice. These are separately applied handrails, by the way. They look really good. The striping on the front there, there's 5 little stripes there, all look great. The flag also is very nicely rendered. This is a very well painted and printed model. If you look real closely, you can see that the model does have ditch lights. We're going to check if they work here in a few minutes when I run this thing. It does have an Accumate magnetic coupler, right, with the trip pin. And just overall, you can see that the paint and print is very crisp down to the the little stallion logo there. And now looking at the other side, you can see it's more of the same. The paint scheme looks to be the same on each side, but of course on the fireman side, the flag faces the right direction. Looks very nice. The other kind of cool thing is you can see the bulge here behind the fireman's door. Another detail that they included. This is a prototype specific detail. And then, of course, the handrails are nicely done as well. They're fairly thin. The color looks the same as the rest of the black on the model, so it's very good. I decided to tip the model up here just so that I can point out the little details in the fuel tank. You know, the filler and gauge and all that stuff down in here. And of course, there's not really a whole lot of detail under the sill. But remember, this is N scale. And if you look at the trucks, they are fairly well detailed. The model does come with blackened wheels, which is nice. That way you don't have to paint the wheels yourself. So very cool. Also, as you can see, it has a separately applied brake wheel. And even though the grills are not photo etched or see-through, they look really good. There's even walkway tread on the walkways, which looks good too. And then on the back, it's really more of the same. You have ditch lights, you have separately applied handrails. The number boards are very crisply rendered. Looks fantastic. Let's look at the top. You can see that the fans are all molded, but they have pretty good depth anyway. That is in fact a K5 LAR24 horn part. Pretty cool. And tell you what, even though this is all molded, you get some weathering going on in there. And this is going to look really good. I'm really impressed with this model so far. I like it. We have to run it still. That's what I really want to do. That would be a good idea to show you the lights. The headlight is activated with F0 like usual, and ditch lights are on F6. And they do work. And I checked the front and the rear, and they all work. And that's a pretty cool thing to have working ditch lights on a model this small from the factory. So there you have it. We have 3 very nice releases from Atlas. I think the locomotive is really good. I love the paint scheme. I think it's cool that NS is honoring the veterans the way they do. And the model's a great representation of the prototype. And something I didn't mention, but is true, is that the sound on that locomotive is really good. Now, I didn't take it apart to see how Atlas installs the sound at the factory, but I'm really tempted to do so because the sound installs that I've done on my N-scale locomotives usually don't sound that good. So good job with that, Atlas. Very impressive. And the fact that it comes with working ditch lights, just everything about it, it's a very, very nice model. The one that I think really stole the show, though, has to be that gray covered hopper. That model is just amazing. it has detail on it that even some HO scale models don't have. And I have to say that if this is where N scale is headed, it's going to a really great place. So great job, Atlas. That little blue rock 2-bay hopper, it's exactly what I'd expect from the Trainman series. So good job. I can't wait to see more. And guess what? We will see more because I have even more stuff that we're going to do a regular N scale Friday on this coming Friday. I'll see you then.